Hey, welcome everyone
That's
to this webinar on End Plastic Soup and Stop the Plastic Pollution. This is the breakout presentation has been given by Melanie Lewis and Barbara McChesney in Melbourne at the end of May. And we are so happy and honored that they have done this for End Plastic Soup and that they have found the time to repeat their presentation and that we can record it. Which is important, I think, because the possibilities for everyone to travel to Melbourne were not available to everyone. And we are very honored because Melanie, it's now over midnight. So it's already on the Saturday for you and very early in the morning for Barbara, 7 o'clock in the morning. But we have many people in different time zones. So most welcome, everyone. And I would like to give the floor to Melanie Lewis to start off, I think.
sure. So thank you for having me. We gave this presentation. We're going to go straight into exactly how we delivered it in Melbourne. We had a full room. It was a really electric energy, and it was a real privilege to represent EndPlasticSoup around this ubiquitous thing of plastic, and obviously a very important initiative of Rotary in working to protect our environment under our area of focus of the environment. How to grow local communities, taking step-by-step action with impact and bringing together the young and the old to expand our reach. So first, as we meet on the, we did meet on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I would like to also acknowledge that I am speaking tonight or today from the Wallumattagal country. So I'm just a little bit across from the Sydney Harbour Bridge, if you know that area. So just acknowledging the local Indigenous country that I am on right now. And as part of that, I'd like to share with you the Australian dreaming of the rainbow serpent, a very important story to our Indigenous Australians. And it's one of the oldest religious stories we know of globally. It's been passed down through the generations through rock art and storytelling over 6,000 years. And it captures how we're connected to country. All of us are connected to country, and why we must protect our waterways, our rivers, our oceans, and our life source. So a long time ago, the earth was flat. The serpent emerged from under the ground to awaken different groups of animals. The movement of its body formed physical features so it was an Indigenous story called The Rainbow Serpent. You may have heard about this. It's the oldest religious story in the world, dated at about 6,000 years. And it talks about a long time ago when the earth was flat and the serpent emerged from under the ground to awaken different groups of animals. The movement of its body formed physical features like hills and gorges, creeks and rivers, and it slithered all over the country, occupying waterholes, providing nourishing water. And once it grew tired with shaping the earth, it coiled into a waterhole where it lays to this day. So our First Nations Indigenous people are very careful not to disturb these water sites that the serpent inhabits. And after the rain, it can rise up from beneath the ground and travel through the clouds. It flies across the sky from one waterhole to another and then forms the rainbows and replenishment. It represents the life-giving value of water as well as the cycle of the seasons. And the serpent also gives rise to the laws that govern the harmonious use of natural resources to keep practices ecologically sustainable. So This varies across the country, but the premise behind every version of it is this revolving belief around country and connection to country and how different elements of nature interact with one another. And I believe Indigenous wisdom can teach us a lot about plastic pollution and how we can deal with that moving on. So can you hear me a bit better now? Because I cannot see you when I share my screen.
That's perfect. Thank you for giving me the story. Thank you.
That's all right. Today, we want you to ask yourself a question, and that is, how will you and your wisdom show up in your grandchildren's or great-grandchildren's future? So when your time on this earthly journey is up, will you be leaving behind a planet like this? Not too attractive, or like this, absolutely beautiful with all those fish. Today we hear so much about the climate crisis that we can forget we're also very much suffering from a plastic crisis. They're intimately connected to these crises, whether we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions or single-use plastics. We're fundamentally talking about the problems with consumption and waste. Did you know that we convert 7 million barrels of oil each day into virgin or brand new plastic? As we place more pressure on big oil to address carbon emissions, they've shifted their investment to petrochemicals and the plastic industry. In fact, over the next 25 years, we're set to inherit 17 billion more tons of virgin plastic. I say inherit because that is the legacy of those that have left us and how they're showing up in our future. We can be better. We can do better. And we're here to tell you today a little bit about the why, the what, and the how we are tackling this issue.
Children and adults from all over delight in the irresistible flavour of the biggest soup in the world, the plastic soup. Prepared only with unnatural ingredients, just like we found it in the oceans. And yes, we followed the most poisonous recipe. With the strongest shopping bags, the most colourful packaging and all kinds of disposable products, and now with even more clothes microfibres. An unwholesome treat for everyone's palates. Daily eaten by turtles, whales, birds, fish, and even shellfish. Get it now in the 40-gram size, the precise amount of plastic each person dumps into the ocean every month. Give in to the latest trend, the soup to end all soups, and indeed to end everything and everyone, the plastic soup. Get it now on plasticsoup.info.
So EndPlasticSoup is a global environmental initiative for Rotary to solve and prevent the plastic pollution problem. We educate on the dangers of microplastics for climate change, biodiversity, and health. We show projects worldwide as examples of what you can achieve as a club and as individuals to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And we help accelerate research, solutions, legislation, international projects across the plastic life cycle. We build alliances inside and outside of Rotary. We know we can be better than this. Corporations have brought their packaged food and products to developing countries who lack waste management systems. On top of that, developing countries have accepted the waste from wealthy nations, with the 4 biggest exporters of USA, Japan, Germany, and the UK. In 2018, China refused to accept our waste, throwing our systems in complete disarray. Very much happened with Australia and our waste as well. And we're still scrambling to find solutions even now. We can do better than this. Research on the gut contents in animals has found plastic in deep sea fish in the Northwest Atlantic, pelagic and demersal fish in the English Channel, bluefin tuna in Lebanon, whales in Norway, sea turtles on the Great Barrier Reef, and shearwater seabirds on Lord Howe Island, a remote island between Australia and New Zealand. We've found plastic particles at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, 11 kilometers underwater or 36,000 feet. And we've found it in the Arctic and Antarctic polar regions, untouched rainforests and remote water bodies, as well as in breast milk and even human placentas. We can be better than this. In 2021, you may remember Sri Lanka's worst maritime disaster unfolding. This was when the Express Pearl container ship caught fire and sank, and it spilled 1.7 tons of nurdles into the sea. Billions of these tiny lentil-sized plastic pellets washed up onto the coast, and in some places they reached up to 2 meters deep. Nurdles were later found all the way from Indonesia through Malaysia to Somalia, and in the bodies of dolphins and the mouths of dead fish, like you see here. We can do better than this. And whilst awareness of plastic waste and microplastics floating in the world's oceans is becoming better known, few people realize that plastic pollution of the soil is a hugely growing concern, with concentration estimates between 4 and 23 times higher than in the seas. When plastics break down in the soil from wastewater sludge, airborne particles or leachates, it can make its way into the terrestrial wildlife and food supply. As evidenced in chickens of Mexico, and just a few months ago, egg consumption in parts of France was suspended due to plastic contamination thought to be from nearby commercial incinerators. We can be better than this. And we have to be better than this because the potential harm to our bodies and that of all creatures is at risk. More and more tertiary research is exposing harmful effects of endocrine disruptors in the chemical components that are present within plastic. BPA, for example, has a chemical structure that resembles the female hormone estrogen. It's found in many things, even those shopping receipts that you get that are printed through a heat machine from the supermarket. Ample evidence now suggests interference in organ function, reproduction and growth, and even the photosynthetic capabilities in plankton. When we work as Rotarians to end plastic soup, we are better than this. And Barbara is about to tell us how people like me, like you, are showing up to fight this plastic crisis.
Thank you, Melanie. So I'd like you all to meet Bentley Arthur Washington II, my beautiful grandson. He has a big name, and I hope for him a big future. He is too young to be an EndPlasticSoup ambassador, but he's not too young to be an inspiration. Bentley, along with millions of children worldwide, deserve to grow up with opportunities to swim in a healthy ocean and clean rivers, and to have bodies free of health threats from microplastics and dangerous chemicals. This is the mission of EndPlasticSoup. Next slide. Isn't he cute though, first? Anyway, okay, so how is EndPlasticSoup working to achieve this mission? One way is supporting young plastic ambassadors, passionate young people who are committed to fighting plastic pollution and creating a better environment for all of us. They are part of the EndPlasticSoup network. They are leaders to work to raise awareness, and they create action and their own activities and projects. Together, we can have much more impact and create even more awareness. I want to tell you about a few of the young ambassadors I've had the opportunity to meet on Zoom. I wish I could meet them in person. I hope someday. Eliane, who's in the top middle, is famous for her initiative to plant trees and stop plastic pollution and so much more all over her home country of Kenya. In April, she attended the Africa Children Conference where she interviewed Dr. Philip from the UN Child's Rights Committee, and she has met with Mr. Macron, the president of France. I met her at age 11, and she was a force to reckon with. She has an infectious energy and will change the world. Amy and Ella Meek on the top right of my screen, of the UK are teenage founders of the environmental charity Kids Against Plastic. I encourage you to watch their TED Talks and UN Geneva talk for inspiration and to learn more about the great work they are doing across the UK. I purchased their books. They've written a couple of books, and when I go to visit other clubs, I take their book on plastic and I give it to the clubs. There are many more young ambassadors working to repair the damage caused by the generations before them. You can learn more on the EndPlasticSoup website. These young people inspire me to do better, and I hope they inspire all of you as well. So next up, we're going to watch a message from Nina from Indonesia.
Dear global leaders, we need a global plastics treaty. Take it from someone who already living in the reality of plastic crisis. Plastic is everywhere, in the sea, in the air we breathe, in the water we drink, and even in our bodies. The treaty must address all the ways that plastic pollutes, from when it's made to when it's wasted, starting with producing less plastic and stopping plastic waste exports to my country and the rest of the global south. I'm fighting for the healthy and clean world, free from plastic pollution. I want the global leaders to take serious action to fight climate crisis and plastic pollution for the sake of the future generation. It's time to act. No more empty promises. We need a full cycle, legally binding plastic treaty now.
Yes, we can do better. And so what else is EndPlasticSoup doing to achieve the mission? We often think of plastic as a litter problem. It is indeed a terrible, ugly litter problem in areas all over the world. However, as Melanie shared with us, it is far more than that. We have all seen the photos of dead whales and birds full of plastic and are just beginning to learn about the toll on human health. EndPlasticSoup is addressing all aspects of the plastic crisis, from production to disposal, through education, awareness, community service, boots on the ground cleanups, advocacy, sustainability, and innovative projects. We should all be deeply alarmed at the amount of plastic we are creating and the impact on human health and the environment. We can do better. Ambassador clubs are taking hold in the US, where I am from, and participating through education, cleanups, significant changes in our personal lives and club practices. We are learning to refuse, reduce, reuse, and that recycling single-use plastics is not the solution. It is a fact that no plastic can be recycled more than once. We can carry our own water bottle, coffee cups, and reusable grocery bags in most parts of the world. We can often make plastic-free choices when shopping and traveling, all while we are advocating for government and businesses to cut the production and availability of single-use plastic. We must change our relationship with single-use plastic and turn off the tap of plastic waste. I encourage and challenge each of you to closely examine your own plastic use and discover more steps that you can take. What is essential and what is not? Step away from the convenience. I just came away from a visit to New Zealand where there was a strong emphasis on protecting the environment. Plastic bags have been banned. All takeaway containers are fully compostable and reusables are much more of a norm. We saw very little trash. As Melanie said, how do we want to show up for the next generation. Okay, next slide. A photo speaks 1,000 words. The amount of plastic waste in this photo is truly alarming. Next, we are showing you the cleanup efforts in the River Drina bordering Herzegovina and Serbia.
Pollution. Polluted beyond belief. This is the Visegrad Dam on the River Drina in Bosnia-Herzegovina. February 2021. The cleanup mission begins with the Collectex boat. This is the first of many projects for Collectex and EndPlasticSoup. Coverage from the press came from Europe and as far away as the Washington Post. Rotary Aachen is the coordinating Rotary Club on this project. A huge challenge to clear the plastic waste from a highly polluted area. Currently, EndPlasticSoup cleanup actions are taking place on the River Danube in Serbia, and we plan to start a follow-up project in Bosnia-Herzegovina in November 2021. Not only will this remove much of the pollution, but it will also include an education and awareness program. EndPlasticSoup in action.
So we are doing better by partnering with many other organizations. EndPlasticSoup works with clubs, inter-country committees in Rotary, other service organizations like Interwheel, non-government organizations, commercial companies, and authorities. We have recently begun a relationship with Cafeteria Culture, a program that was started in New York City with a group of 5th graders working to ban styrofoam and plastic in their lunch programs. They started a program called Plastic Free Lunch, and it's spreading across the country. Together, we have already supported global grants for a project in Egypt, a project in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Waste Management Training Center in Bali, Indonesia, and initiated school projects with a Rotaract Club in Uganda. In Indonesia, we are starting 4 projects in cooperation with local clubs and districts and NGOs as Bye Bye Plastic Bags. Technology Without Borders, Happy Green Islands, and Living Seas. Bye Bye Plastic Bags was started by young ambassadors Melody and Isabel from Malaysia. We also carry out several educational projects in Indonesia, Uganda, Germany, the Netherlands, England, and Spain. Many of these projects include cleanup, and we wonder what happens to all that plastic. Through innovation, EndPlasticSoup is developing ways to repurpose plastics into anything from shopping bags to houses. Next. EndPlasticSoup also supports innovation like this. The bubble barrier in Westerdok is strategically placed to stop as much of the outflow of plastic from Amsterdam's city center as possible, and is powered by renewable energy from the city of Amsterdam. The rising bubbles of the bubble barrier create an upward current, which brings the plastic to the surface of the water. Due to the diagonal placement in the waterway, the bubble barrier uses the natural flow to guide the plastic to the collection system at the riverside. Aquatic life is not being blocked by the bubbles. In fact, the oxygen level in the water and harmful algae blooms are prevented. The bubble screens also absorb sounds and waves, so fish and shorelines experience less damage from ship traffic. And unlike many other plastic capture technologies, the bubble barrier does not interfere with the passage of ships or wildlife. So All of these projects rely on collaborative action, and EndPlasticSoup has over 50 alliances. We have 5 to 10-year programs with 4 global grants and another 10 projects starting or in progress. Our mission is to end plastic soup by 2050. Next one. So EndPlasticSoup is proud to be collaborating with SREG. SREG is the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. SREG groups focus on key environmental projects such as rivers, plastics, climate, and so much more. SREG empowers members worldwide to take actions to sustain our environment and stabilize our climate. It provides resources to share information with clubs and communities about sustainable practices and the global humanitarian crisis of climate change. There are SREG groups focused on all aspects of the environment and in all parts of the world. Rotarians are acting, and Melanie and I are excited to be part of the EndPlasticSoup movement. Those that created the environment as an area focus and accomplished adding it to Rotary's mission know the incredible power of Rotary to accomplish seemingly impossible tasks. Look at what we have done for polio. Truthfully, none of the other Rotary areas of focus can be fully addressed if we don't take care of the environment. As was stated earlier this week during the convention, Rotary has an opportunity to be on the right side of history. Actions large and small create hope in the world that we can end plastic soup. That's it.
Thanks, Barbara. So here's our call to action. Expand your reach, enhance community participation, increase Rotary's impact, and support the environment. So each year, on the first Saturday of June, EndPlasticSoup has their action day. It coincides with World Environment Day on the 5th of June. This year was actually the UN focus on breaking free from plastic as well. So from the convention, we went straight into global action for EndPlasticSoup. Across the planet, Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, and Interact clubs all getting together to work towards that action weekend. So put that on your calendar for next year. You can also start right now, download these apps to help you end plastic soup. And we ask you to pick up 1 piece of waste every day. We asked people during the convention to think of doing this. We're asking you now to do this as everyday action in your life. In Australia, we have a movement called Take 3 for the Sea, and they encourage you to pick up 3 pieces every time you venture out. Of course, there's bring your own or BYO cups, cutlery, bags, drink bottles, snacks. This all works towards cutting demand to help break business as usual. I saw a recent statistic or graph in new research that's come out detailing the top 10 items in ocean garbage, and 14.1% of those are plastic bags, 11.9% with plastic bottles, 9.4% with food containers and cutlery, 9.1% with wrappers, and then it went to synthetic rope, fishing items, plastic caps and lids, and industrial packaging. So 8 of the top 10 were plastic related waste products. So that is really telling that even though we've been talking about bringing your own cups and cutlery and drink bottles, and there's bans in lots of developing countries now, it shows that the breakdown is really in waste management and consumption, and there's lots of work still to be done. So when my grandparents were alive, they had no idea what devastation might be caused by plastic. They saw only the benefits from the convenience it creates. But now we know better. And from now, you know better. So how will you show up in your great-grandchildren's future? We hope it's by ending the plastic soup that we're all confronted with. There's so much Rotarian work to be done. We just need to do it. So you can connect with us on any or all of these channels, or grab the link to join. Scanning the QR code on your phone will take you to the website. And that's us, minus Salvador. He couldn't join us tonight, I don't think. He had lots of work to do. So we would really appreciate your feedback and questions. I'm hoping there's a lot of questions, and we will attempt to answer those for you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all. And there you all are.
Perfect. Thank you. Well done, Melanie and Barbara. So I think we should applaud for what you have been doing for us and for all of us in our planet in Melbourne. I think it was a wonderful presentation, and as I understood from all of you, is that there were just 240 seats available in the room, and they were filled like 10 minutes before. So many people were sent away, even your own district governor, Melanie, who was 10 minutes before, but he could stand in the doorway, but then he had to leave because of security reasons. So there were many people who would like to have seen you, and hopefully this recording can help to support all of them. I'm very happy that you all are there. Maybe you have questions that you want to raise to Barbara and Melanie, or to Maya and me. Please raise your hand or ask for permission to ask a question. Barbara, you want to say something first?
Well, I just want to say it was very exciting for Melanie and I that the room was so full, and we even had one of the trustees from the international board who attended our session, which was great. And a number of people urged us for next year that we should have a bigger room and more time, because there was so many questions and we just didn't have enough time to answer all the questions. That was probably the best part of the whole thing, was all the interest and questions and enthusiasm. People were really wanting this information.